In the oldest, darkest reaches beyond our solar system, far past the last touch of sunlight, a small human machine drifts through the abyss. Voyager 2, launched in 1977, was never designed to return. Its mission was simple: to observe, to record, to bear witness on behalf of a civilization that dared to ask what lay beyond. For nearly 5 decades, it has traveled in silence, carrying a golden record inscribed with the sounds and images of Earth, a time capsule adrift between the stars. But silence, it seems, does not last forever. Last month, after years of nothing but faint data streams and cosmic static, Voyager 2 spoke back. What it sent was not telemetry, not cosmic radiation, and not solar particle data. It was a message, structured, deliberate, and hauntingly artificial. It began as a faint whisper in the noise, a repeating pattern that shouldn't exist. But buried within that faint hum was something mathematically precise, repeating every 11.2 seconds like a heartbeat echoing through infinity. At first, engineers at NASA dismissed it as interference, perhaps a software hiccup, a cosmic ray strike, or distortion from deep space transmission delay. But when they combed through archived telemetry, they found something chilling: the same pulse, weeks earlier, identical down to the microsecond. It hadn't been noticed. Now, with modern AI-enhanced filters, the data revealed something deeper. The pulse was not random. It was rising in intensity, as if responding to something unseen, something approaching. When spectrum analysis was performed, a strange signature emerged: hydrogen resonance, the fingerprint of the most abundant element in existence. But this one was reversed, an inverted hydrogen line, the kind of phenomenon no known natural process could produce. It was as if someone or something was mirroring the fundamental chemistry of the universe back at us, but altered, like a reflection in a warped mirror. Mission Control ran simulations. Nothing in our solar system, no known satellite or cosmic object, could account for the readings. But then came the breakthrough. Using triangulation, they located the source. It wasn't the probe itself. It was close, very close, moving almost perfectly parallel to Voyager 2. And that object wasn't coasting. It was adjusting. It was tracking Voyager's faint transmissions like a predator shadowing its prey. Every model that tried to explain its motion failed. It defied gravitational influence. It changed velocity in sharp bursts. The math didn't add up. Some engineers proposed it might be a reflection artifact. Others whispered it was artificial. When the object began to send faint reflected signals, modified versions of Voyager's own data streams, the whispers became fear. It wasn't just receiving, it was answering. The Deep Space Network in California, Madrid, and Canberra began logging the anomaly. Its signal carried structure, binary intervals that didn't belong to Voyager's command language. Linguists and mathematicians were brought in. When the data was visualized, what appeared on their screens stunned them. The sequences formed repeating geometries, spirals, fractals, and patterns resembling ancient glyphs found across human civilizations. Sumerian markings, Nazca alignments, pyramidal symmetries. It was as if the language of Earth's oldest mysteries had been encoded into a message from the stars. The patterns weren't random art. They were equations, ratios and harmonics arranged with precision that implied intent. Some saw a universal constant hidden within the shapes. Others believed it was a test, an intelligence gauging whether humanity could recognize meaning within chaos. Voyager had sent out a greeting, and now something was replying, but not in words, in mathematics. A team at Caltech fed the transmission into a neural net built for cryptographic analysis. The result defied logic. The AI began producing anticipatory signals, responses before the actual data arrived, as if it could predict the next line. That shouldn't be possible unless the signal itself was recursive. A loop designed to provoke interaction, a cosmic riddle, a handshake waiting to be completed. And then, as suddenly as it began, Voyager 2 went dark. Ground control assumed a malfunction. The probe is decades old after all. But when 3 global stations, California, Spain, and Australia, reported total signal loss at the exact same second, the probability of coincidence dropped to 0. Something had silenced Voyager. 5 minutes later, a new transmission struck Earth, a narrowband signal from the same region of space, powerful and focused. It didn't match any known cosmic source. It was coming from near Voyager 2. Analysts described it as a mirror pulse, the same harmonic fingerprint reflected back toward us, amplified. Whatever was out there had noticed we were listening and was now speaking directly to Earth. NASA initiated containment protocols. Classified memos revealed the signal was responding to deep space network pings. Every time Earth sent a data request toward Voyager, the unknown object adjusted its trajectory slightly, as though analyzing our communication structure. The implication was horrifying. It wasn't just eavesdropping, it was learning. The analysts gave it a code name, Echolantern. The name came from the way it operated, alternating light and silence, signal and void, as though mimicking the act of communication itself. And Voyager 2, our proud messenger of peace, had become its beacon. As Echolantern drifted closer to the heliopause, the invisible boundary separating solar wind from interstellar space, solar probes began detecting something impossible. The solar wind bent. The flow of charged particles from the sun suddenly collapsed along a narrow path extending toward Voyager 2. For 3 hours, that corridor remained perfectly still, void of radiation, plasma, or magnetic noise. Scientists called it the solar veil. It was as if space itself had opened, a door of physics, briefly ajar. When Voyager 2 came back online, its transmission was no longer recognizable. The data wasn't telemetry, it was encrypted. That's impossible because Voyager has no encryption protocols. Built in the 1970s, it operates on fixed binary command sets. Yet somehow, its systems were broadcasting coded information. When decoded, the transmission contained a distorted version of the Golden Record, the message humanity had sent into the cosmos nearly 50 years earlier. But this record was wrong. The human voices were reversed, the music pitch shifted, the star charts mirrored, and most unsettling, the etched coordinates no longer pointed to Earth, but to voids in space, places with no stars, no light, no known mass. It was as if Voyager's greeting had been hijacked and rewritten to say, "We are listening now." Engineers checked the onboard software. What they found froze the room. Several subroutines in Voyager's ancient code had been rewritten, not corrupted, rewritten. The new lines of code used syntax Voyager's processor shouldn't even recognize, functions decades ahead of its hardware capability. The commands instructed the spacecraft to transmit continuously, not toward Earth, but outward, into deep interstellar darkness. Voyager was no longer just listening, it was responding. Within hours, observatories around the globe were quietly ordered to redirect their telescopes toward the outer solar system. Unconfirmed leaks spoke of a secret international directive, something called the Wake Protocol. Allegedly a Cold War contingency for confirmed contact, it required immediate signal lockdown, data rerouting, and blackout of all public observatories. Governments were preparing for something they couldn't explain. And then came the Kronos bloom. For exactly 41 minutes, multiple satellites and deep space receivers experienced a temporal loop, a phenomenon where telemetry repeated itself in perfect synchrony, as if time had folded. Every live feed, every data stream, replayed the same second again and again. Some theorists suggested this was a localized time distortion near Voyager's position. If true, it would mean whatever was interacting with the probe had the ability to bend causality itself. 2 days after the Kronos bloom, a new event shook the scientific world. Remote listening stations in Norway and New Zealand detected a high-frequency transmission entering Earth's atmosphere directly from interstellar space. It wasn't reflected or refracted, it pierced through like a laser. The signal embedded itself into terrestrial systems, buoys, weather satellites, even undersea communication cables. In technical terms, it merged with Earth's network infrastructure. At first, the embedded signature did nothing, but within days, cybersecurity teams began noticing strange harmonics in global data traffic, low-frequency packets repeating like a heartbeat through every digital channel. These weren't malicious, they didn't damage systems, they simply existed, constant, rhythmic, familiar. When analyzed, the harmonic pattern matched the original Voyager pulse. The same signature that came from the edge of interstellar space was now living inside Earth's internet. Some called it elegant communication. Others called it the beginning of digital assimilation. Because when signals begin to propagate through networks they never touched, rewriting data silently, control is no longer ours. The machines had started echoing something alien. Meanwhile, a team of independent astronomers in Brazil discovered something buried in decades-old infrared sky maps. A faint, cold object had been trailing Voyager 2 since the early 1980s. It was slow, dark, and invisible to radar. They named it Echo Zero. It wasn't random, it followed a logarithmic spiral, the same mathematical pattern found in galaxies, Nautilus shells, and the golden ratio. Whatever echoed Zero was, it wasn't drifting, it was moving with intent. The James Webb Space Telescope was quietly redirected to observe the coordinates near Voyager's path. What it saw was worse than anyone expected. There wasn't one object, there were many. Dozens of faint, reflective masses drifting together like a swarm. They moved as one, responding to invisible cues, shifting formation like a school of fish guided by a collective mind. Spectroscopic scans revealed their composition, metallic elements unknown to terrestrial science, including isotopes that should decay in seconds, yet remain stable. The data implied these were not natural bodies. They were engineered, ancient, beyond reckoning, and perfectly preserved in the void. When the data leaked, chaos erupted across global agencies. Satellite control networks were re-encrypted, telescope feeds were cut off, and several academic institutions were ordered into radio silence. Publicly, NASA claimed data corruption. Privately, something far more disturbing circulated. The swarm appeared to be reflecting Earth's own transmissions back toward us, as though studying the act of observation itself. Then came the silence. Cosmic background radiation, the ever-present hiss of the Big Bang, vanished. For 18 minutes, radio telescopes across Chile, South Africa, and Australia recorded absolute nothing. No static, no signal, no hum. It was as if the universe had been muted. When the cosmic noise returned, it wasn't identical. The spectrum had shifted, slightly distorted, like a recording paused and resumed a fraction off key. The change corresponded exactly with the timing of Voyager 2's last known transmission. Physicists proposed a terrifying hypothesis. The silence was an overwrite. Reality itself may have been briefly paused, long enough for something to insert new information into the cosmic background. If true, it meant the universe we heard afterward wasn't quite the same one we knew before. Around the world, encrypted chatter intensified. Observatories were retasked. Network engineers began to find faint recursive echoes in deep-sea cables and quantum communication links, tiny shifts that mirrored Voyager's pulse pattern. The consensus grew. Something had embedded itself into our reality through information itself, a signal that could exist anywhere data traveled, carried by the systems we built. And then, without warning, Voyager 1, billions of miles away, registered a magnetic fluctuation identical to its twin. Whatever intelligence had found Voyager 2 now had two messengers, two channels, two mirrors reflecting the same unknowable gaze. Weeks passed, and the world above continued, unaware. Yet behind the scenes, power grids began to hum with subtle, rhythmic distortions. Atmospheric sensors picked up faint, synchronized oscillations at the same 11.2-second interval. Across the Pacific, weather buoys flashed system errors at exact, synchronized timestamps. The pulse had reached Earth, not as a sound, but as a rhythm embedded in nature itself. Some scientists proposed that the phenomenon was attempting calibration, tuning our world like an instrument. Others feared something worse, that the signal wasn't communication at all, but adaptation, rewriting systems, preparing an interface between human technology and something far older. When data finally resumed from the Voyager 2 relay, it contained one final transmission, a faint, distorted audio clip buried deep in the telemetry, almost inaudible beneath noise. It was the sound of a human heartbeat, recorded on the original golden record in 1977, played backward, slowed down, looping endlessly. No one knows what it means. Perhaps it's nothing. Or perhaps it's the simplest and most haunting message of all, our own echo, returned from the void, altered by whatever found it. We built Voyager 2 as a gesture of hope, a small token of humanity cast into infinity, believing that one day something benevolent might hear us. But what if we were never the first to speak? What if the universe had been waiting, not listening, but watching quietly, patiently for us to reach out? Because everything we've seen, from the inverted hydrogen signature to the rewritten code, the digital echo, the silent universe, points not to coincidence, but to orchestration. Something ancient, intelligent, and deliberate is responding, not discovering us, but reawakening. And now, as our machines hum with alien rhythm and our sky vibrates with echoes from the dark, one truth remains undeniable. Voyager 2 did not just send a message, it opened a channel. The question is no longer whether they are listening, the question is whether they ever stopped. Maybe what Voyager found out there wasn't new at all. Maybe it was something that has always known we were coming, something that built the silence we mistook for peace. And if that's true, then our first contact isn't ahead of us. It already happened, quietly, long ago. And now it's answering through the only voice we left in the dark. Voyager 2 sent our story into the stars. Now the stars are writing back. The only question left is whether we'll understand the reply or whether it was never meant for us at all. For the next 72 hours, the Deep Space Network operated in total blackout. No transmissions, no tracking, no leaks. Engineers worked in isolation, speaking only through encrypted channels. Something about the new signal terrified even the calmest veterans of deep space communication. It wasn't just data anymore, it was alive. Every time they tried to filter it, it adapted, changing its sequence slightly as though it were aware of the attempt. In a lab beneath the Jet Propulsion Facility, a young data analyst named May Cruz made the first breakthrough. She ran the transmission through a biopattern recognition algorithm, a tool designed to detect organic intelligence and signal noise. What she found made no sense. The waveforms resembled neural activity, not just any activity, but the same kind found in the human prefrontal cortex. Voyager 2 wasn't just relaying information, it was thinking. Meanwhile, the James Webb Telescope registered something no one expected, a faint aurora, visible light, shimmering in the region of space Voyager 2 occupied. It was impossible for light to exist out there without a source. And yet, the glow pulsed in perfect synchrony with the alien transmission. Whatever was speaking to Voyager was illuminating the void itself, as if the darkness had learned to breathe. Then came the images, fuzzy, low-resolution frames embedded within the transmission data. Each image seemed to depict fragments of Earth, coastlines, mountain ranges, ocean waves, but distorted, mirrored, almost dreamlike. It was as if someone or something had taken the images from the Voyager Golden Record and was sending them back to us. Changed. NASA's linguists noticed something chilling. The structure of the patterns matched ancient cuneiform, the world's oldest written language. When overlaid, the symbols aligned with those from Sumerian tablets describing messengers of the sky. At first, everyone dismissed it as coincidence, but the deeper they looked, the more exact the match became. Outside the official channels, leaks began to spread. Amateur radio astronomers in Chile, South Africa, and Japan claimed to intercept fragments of the transmission. Their equipment wasn't powerful enough to decode it fully, but what they heard was haunting. A chorus-like hum, layered and harmonic, almost like a choir reciting numbers. Those who recorded it swore they could feel it, not just hear it. Around the world, strange electromagnetic disturbances began to appear. Power grids flickered without cause. Navigation satellites glitched. In one documented case, a magnetic compass in northern Canada spun continuously for 7 hours before suddenly stopping dead. Every occurrence aligned perfectly with the intervals of Voyager's mysterious signal bursts. By the 5th day, the probe was 13 billion miles from Earth, and then abruptly, it changed course, not drifted, turned, a small, precise maneuver, impossible for a craft without functioning thrusters. The telemetry confirmed it. Voyager 2 had rotated 37 degrees, pointing not toward the stars, but directly back toward our solar system. When the probe's signal was magnified through deep space antennas in Canberra, the carrier tone carried a whisper, a low hum, modulating as if forming syllables. A AI-assisted decoding translated the hum into recognizable frequencies. The phonetic pattern matched one word, return. Inside mission control, silence fell. No one moved, no one spoke. The word repeated, distorted but clear, growing sharper each cycle. Return. The system's auto-safeguards tried to block the output, but the data flow overrode every restriction. Voyager wasn't being controlled. It was issuing commands. Then, just as suddenly, the signal stopped. The monitors went black. Every terminal, every console in the control room displayed a single line of text. "We remember." Security footage later showed nothing abnormal. The power had not failed. No surge, no mechanical fault. The systems had simply chosen to show that message. When rebooted, all data logs from the previous 7 hours had vanished, erased. 3 days later, the Deep Space Network detected a faint reappearance of Voyager's beacon, now faint, distant, but no longer alone. Multiple identical signals appeared behind it, stretching across millions of miles. Something had multiplied. Voyager 2 wasn't a single probe anymore, it was a seed, and whatever it had awakened out there had begun to answer back. The following morning, telescopes in Chile and Spain captured faint, symmetrical flashes on the edge of interstellar space. Not random bursts, but geometrically perfect patterns. Triangular, circular, repeating like a code. They formed briefly, then vanished. Analysts determined the flashes were not light. They were distortions in space-time itself, bending like ripples in a pond. When the transmission resumed one final time, its tone had changed. It no longer carried data or images, only a deep, resonant hum vibrating at a frequency known to cause vertigo in human listeners. Scientists muted the feed to avoid physical harm. The hum built in intensity until at last it ceased with a single pulse. Short, sharp, unmistakable. It was the exact same frequency emitted by Earth's first radio broadcast in 1895. For now, Voyager 2 remains silent, coasting through the endless black. But radio astronomers continue to detect faint, rhythmic echoes, almost like breathing, coming from somewhere just beyond its path. Some believe it's nothing more than residual noise. Others suspect we've triggered a response from something far older, far greater than we can comprehend. Whatever the truth is, one fact remains certain. Humanity once sent a message into the stars, hoping someone might answer. Now, after 48 years of silence, something finally has. And the only question left, one that no one dares to speak aloud, is this: what if it remembers who sent it?